Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really insightful editorial that paints a picture of Indian badminton and asks some tough questions about its future.
For Indian badminton, 2025 has been, well, a bit of a struggle. We've seen some fleeting moments of success, but overall, the top players have been pretty inconsistent, and it's got a lot of people asking some serious questions.
But then, right at the end of the season, when things were looking pretty down, this one victory came along and completely changed the mood. It was this huge glimmer of hope, a real breath of fresh air for everyone involved. All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with why this year has been so tough. Then we'll zoom in on Lakshya Sen's amazing comeback. After that, we'll look at the bigger picture, what's happening with our other top stars, and this idea of a broken supply line for new talent. We'll wrap up by looking at what's being done to fix it and what it'll really take to get back to the top.
Okay, so before we get to that big win, we really need to set the stage. Because honestly, the overall picture for Indian badminton in 2025, it's been pretty concerning.
Just look at the scorecard for the year. It's kind of stark, right? Successes were few and far between, and our top players were really up and down. To be honest, besides that awesome doubles bronze from Satwiksairaj and Chirag at the Worlds, there just wasn't much to cheer about.
But in the middle of all that gloom, one player managed to light a spark, and that was Lakshya Sen.
And the editorial we're breaking down just nails it. It calls his win at the Australian Open a breath of fresh air. And that's exactly what it was. It was the positive story the sport desperately needed at that moment. And you have to understand, his journey to get this win was just a roller coaster. Think about it. First, there's the heartbreak of just missing out on an Olympic medal in 2024. Then, he has this absolutely brutal 2025 dealing with injuries and getting knocked out in the first round 11 times. 11! So to climb back from that and win the Australian Open, wow, that just speaks volumes about his mental toughness. So why was this win such a big deal? Well, sure, the Australian Open isn't one of the top-tier Super 1000 events, but it's still a major Super 500 title. And get this, it was his first title in a whole year, and his first one outside of India in even longer than that. Plus, he had to take down the world number 6 in the semis to even get to the final. So yeah, this was absolutely not an easy win.
Okay, so Lakshya's win is fantastic, no doubt. But it brings up a really important question. Is this one incredible victory enough to cover up the bigger problems that seem to be affecting India's other top players?
And that's the thing we really have to ask ourselves now, right? Is this when the start of a real turnaround for Indian badminton? Or is it just a bright spot, an exception to a pretty worrying trend? Well, if you look at the actual numbers, the ranking reality, the picture gets a bit clearer. Our incredible doubles pair, Satwiksairaj and Chirag, are the only Indians in the top 10. The legend Sindhu has only managed one tour title since way back in July 2022. But the one that really stands out is the story of Prannoy. Just think about this. This is a guy who won a world championship bronze just 2 years ago. He was ranked number 6 in the world. And to see his ranking fall all the way down to 35, that's a huge drop. That's got to be a major red flag for everyone. So, when you see our established stars struggling to consistently perform, it makes you wonder about something deeper, something even more troubling. And that's this idea of a broken talent pipeline. Think about it. In the past, India was amazing at this. We had this seamless flow of talent. You had a trailblazer like Saina Nehwal, and then right behind her came Sindhu, who took things to a whole new level. But now, that flow seems to have stopped. The editorial calls it a rupture in the supply line, and that feels right. We're just not seeing that next junior star really breaking through and making a splash on the senior circuit. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like there's zero young talent. Of course not. You've got 20-year-old Ayush Sethi winning a Super 300 title, which is great, and 16-year-old Tanvi Sharma grabbing a silver at the World Juniors. That's huge. These are absolutely fantastic results. The issue is that junior-level success just hasn't translated, yet, into those big, consistent breakthroughs on the senior tour. Okay, so what's the response to all this? How is the Badminton Association of India tackling these challenges? Well, it looks like they're trying to meet them head-on. And they're taking some pretty concrete steps. First up, they're setting up a national center of excellence in Guwahati, which is all about training that next generation of players. They're also bringing the big tournaments home, hosting the World Juniors in 2025 and then the big one, the World Championships in 2026. The hope is that this will raise India's profile and give our young talent a taste of top-level competition right in their own backyard.
So, we've talked about the struggles, we've talked about the comeback, and we've talked about the plan. But what's the bottom line here? What does a real resurrection for Indian badminton actually look like?
While the editorial we're drawing from makes a really powerful point, being an elite badminton nation, it's about a lot more than just hosting big tournaments.
And really, it all boils down to this. Real success, a true resurrection, isn't about one great win here or there. It's not even about hosting the World Championships. It's about depth. It's about having, as the source so perfectly puts it, a battery of medal challengers. A whole group of players who are consistently in the mix for the biggest titles year in and year out.
And so, that's the big question we're left with. Lakshya Sen's amazing win was a spark. But can India turn that spark into a fire? Can it build that new generation of champions needed for a true resurrection in one of the nation's most beloved sports? Well, that is the challenge that lies ahead.